With all the technology we have, why do we still not have smell-o-vision? I wish you could smell my kitchen right now. I'm showing you how to make these delicious chicken and dumplings. Here is what we need today to get started on this comfort food classic, Southern classic for sure. So here I am starting with a whole chicken that I've already cut up and cleaned. Two reasons why I like to use a whole chicken. It's more flavorful to the sauce, the soup, the stew, whatever you want to call it, itself, to have the meat on the bone. But also, my family is not a fan of all white meat. So I like the mixture and texture of the dark and white in this recipe. But of course, you absolutely can make this with all dark meat or with all white meat. So now I'm going to go ahead and get the vegetables prepared. Here I have 3 stalks of celery, and I just want to show you the type of dice that I like to do here on this. I like to have chunks of celery going throughout my chicken and dumplings, and so I kind of do maybe a medium-sized slice on here instead of actually a dice, but go with what your favorite type is here. But this is the size that I like here. I like to pick it up on the spoon, and I like to see it go throughout the chicken and dumplings itself. So go ahead and get this chopped, and then we will get started on everything else. And here on the onion itself, I'm really trying to decide here. I have a son who does not care for the flavor. Well, he doesn't mind the flavor of onion, but he doesn't really like the taste and texture to bite into an onion. So I'm trying to decide here how I'm going to do it. You definitely could just dice it and put it into your soup, but I think I'm just going to quarter it. And that way it is easier to pull out later. I'll have the flavor cooked into my soup, but won't have that onion going through it. It's so funny. My son, he doesn't like onion, but also my mother in love, she doesn't either. And I called myself outsmarting her one time because she said she doesn't like onion. And so I'm like, well, most people don't really mind the onion flavor, but just not the bite of onion. So I called myself slick. I made a chicken salad one day, and I shredded the onion in it so you couldn't have the bite of onion. It was just there in the background. And she hugged me and she said, I liked your chicken salad. It was really good, but I tasted that onion in it. I'm like, man, she got me. So, but yeah, that's where my son gets it from apparently. So I'm just going to leave it like this and put it into my soup. And then here I have some herbs from my garden, and these are optional, but I like to add as much flavor in it as I can. So I got a couple of sprigs of rosemary here, some sage, and also some thyme. I'm just going to go ahead and throw this in, and then I'll fish it out later before we add the dumplings into the chicken and dumplings. I also want to go ahead and mention everything else I'll be adding in. So I am going to add in 1 bay leaf, and then I like to do 1 tablespoon of chicken base here. I like to use this. I think it kind of helps me get the broth flavor going. So I use a tablespoon of that. All right, so over to the stove. I got my chicken in here with about 10 cups of water. I will let you know if I end up using any more. I'm gonna go ahead and get in all of those vegetables and everything that we just prepared. So I have my celery going in, and then my herbs, I'm not even going to chop up. I'll just fish them out later, but this is a preference, so do it however you want. I'm gonna put in my bay leaf, my onions, which again, I will fish these out later when I get my meat out of here. And then I'm going to add my tablespoon of chicken base. You can use chicken bouillon here if you like as well, or you could totally omit it. And then I'm just gonna add salt and pepper to taste. So I'll bring this up to a boil and let this simmer until my meat is cooked and falling off the bone. All right, I got this up to simmer. I'm gonna go ahead and add my lid on, and then we'll get started on the dumplings. All right, let's get started on my delicious dumplings, and I'll show you my secret here. Now, you definitely could roll out biscuits, canned biscuits. That's what my mom always did when I was growing up. And it's delicious that way as well, but y'all know I'm just not a fan of a canned biscuit. Plus, these are creamy, they're fluffy, and they're delicious. So if you have the time, go ahead and try it. And here I have 2 cups of flour. I'm gonna get my dry ingredients in. I have 3 teaspoons of baking powder. And then here's my secret. I flavor my dumplings. This does make a big difference in how the outcome of this dish is. So I have a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of fresh black pepper. Now that's also the trick. The fresh cracked pepper adds something to this dumplings that is just, it's over the top. So I'm just gonna mix this gently. Got that in. Now you could absolutely run this through the food processor. Sometimes I do that. Today I'm just going old school. So I have a 1/2 cup of shortening that I am just gonna cut in. You can also do this with a pastry cutter. The fork works just fine for me. Plus I have a small kitchen, but a lot of people to feed. So I try not to buy tools or appliances that only do one purpose. A fork, I can do a lot of things with. So I don't actually own a pastry cutter, even though I do make a lot of breads. Fork works just fine. And since these are not biscuits exactly, this doesn't have to be perfect. Just get it cut in well until it is like coarse sand. And then the last thing we're going to add in is buttermilk. Now, this is my recipe. I love the buttermilk here, that tanginess in the dumplings. It makes a difference. But of course, what I always say, use what you got on hand. So if you just got regular milk, go right ahead. I would not suggest using a lesser fat milk though, because you definitely want the fat for these dumplings. So whole milk would be a good replacement, but definitely wouldn't go with the skim milk. So I'm just kind of mixing this in, gently folding in the buttermilk here. And then once I get this mixed, this is just going to hang out and wait for me. So I'm gonna let it sit until the chicken is done cooking. And then I'll show you exactly an easy, less mess way to roll out these dumplings. I'm just making sure there's no dry spots and just folding all the dry parts of the flour into itself. Making sure not to over mix it too much or mix it too hard. I tend to be heavy-handed, so I'm reminding you, but really I'm reminding myself also. All right, just gonna give this pat down. Like I said, I'll let this hang out until the chicken is ready. All right, here is my tip to rolling out these dumplings and making it easier cleanup. So what I like to do is take some plastic wrap, and basically I'm going to line a good space here on my countertop for my dumplings. And this does a couple things. It helps me have easy cleanup, but also it protects my counters for the way that I cut my dumplings, which I'll show you in a second. So I'm just gonna keep rolling this out here, like I said, the length of my counter. Now, when I was young, my mom would let us roll out the biscuits for the dumplings. So a lot of times my girls will help me do this part as well. And it's fun. They enjoy it. Okay, and we're gonna do one more. And that'll be it. And that is our station ready to go for our dumplings. All right, ready to roll out our dumplings. So I have that dumpling dough that's been sitting while the chicken has been cooking. Got my station ready here, a rolling pin, and then I got some flour. Now, I am very generous with the flour here because it helps to thicken the chicken and dumplings itself once we get these in. So I'm gonna generously flour my surface here. And then also my rolling pin. Now, when I was growing up, my mom didn't have a rolling pin. She would roll this up with like a cylinder shaped glass. And then that's also how she did biscuits sometimes too. She just pressed the top of the glass. But I'm fancy now. I've graduated. So here we go. All right. Put this out to the side. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and flour the top as well. And then I am going to roll this out. This will puff up a little bit. So keep that in mind when choosing a thickness. You don't want, or maybe you do. I mean, you know, whatever size dumplings you like. So if you like a big, thick dumpling, you can leave the dough itself thicker. I'm gonna say I like a medium size thickness. So here I'm rolling this out about like 1/4 of an inch. It seems about accurate. Okay, I'm gonna dust the top again with flour. Like I said, I don't care about having too much flour here because it helps thicken the chicken and dumplings. All right, and here's my next trick on getting these dumplings. Pizza cutter. You definitely could use a knife, but again, this just makes it easier for me. But also, that's why I was explaining why I use the plastic wrap at the bottom so I won't damage my counters. Okay, here I don't have any any tips or tricks. I just roll it out, no big deal. Again, I'm looking for maybe a thickness of about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, but this is all personal preference here. And you can do them as thick or as thin. I like to do them in squares. My mom used to do them in strips. So there's some options. But cooking is all how you like it. And if you've never made it before, maybe you can try it out the way I've done it. See if you like it or do your own little spin on it. Once you do it in your home, this recipe becomes yours, okay? All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and go across. I'm gonna cut some of the bigger ones. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not an artist. Only with food. Well, as far as making it taste good anyway. All right, last thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and sprinkle some more flour and then kind of pick my dumplings up. And then I'll kind of make a little pile here with my dumplings and then just let them hang out until I get ready to put them back in or put them into the pot to cook with the chicken. And you know what? I decided to go ahead and just, I'm gonna go ahead and just transfer this to a bowl. so that I can clean my counters, because it's gonna bother me if I don't. And I can pick up that flour because I want it to thicken. Okay. And then here, let me dust my hands out first. All I have to do is pick up my plastic wraps and my counters are clean. Okay, checking back in on my chicken. This has been simmering about 25 minutes here. At this point, the chicken is not falling off the bone just yet. Even though it may be done, it's easier for me to shred later. If it starts falling off the bone, I know it's really tender. At this point, I like to just kind of get my spoon in there and skim the fat off so that we can have a better looking, better tasting end result. We'll call that good enough for now. I'll just get the lid back on here and let it continue to cook. All right, this has been cooking about an hour. Like I said, I knew the chicken was probably ready the last time I checked, which is at the 30-minute mark. But I do like for it to be tender, so I let it go longer. And I'm not in a hurry, so. All right, so what I'm gonna do at this point is I got my large bowl here to the side. I am going to go ahead and just, with my large skimmer here, get my chicken out. And then also I am going to go ahead and pull out those herbs. Trying to leave the celery though. And then I will show you the rest of the ingredients to complete our chicken and dumplings. Okay, I have the chicken. It's been cooled. I'm just gonna go ahead and shred it. I just removed the bones and the vegetables. Be sure to take this extra step, please. When I was growing up, they would just make the chicken and dumplings until it literally fell off the bone, but they would leave the bone and the cartilage and the skin of the chicken inside of it. And yeah, as a kid, that was traumatizing. So people, please take the extra step and shred your chicken. That's my PSA for today. Now, as I'm shredding this, I don't go too fine of a shred, just small, but this is a personal preference here. Back over to the pot, we're gonna go ahead and add the shredded chicken back in. So from here, I just have a couple more ingredients to add to complete this dish. The first is 1 large can of cream of mushroom soup. This is just the way my family does it, and I think it adds a really good blend of flavors here. My chicken and dumplings actually is kind of reminiscent of a giblet gravy, if you've ever had that. It puts you in the mind frame of that, but like a soup or a stew. So now we're going to go ahead and add those dumplings in. I do this very gently so that I won't make a mush of those dumplings because they're not cooked yet. Now that I have all of the dumplings in, I like to gently go in and make sure that they're all separated and in contact with my soup stew that we got here so that the hot broth can start to cook the dumplings. Now here I'm adding in a teaspoon of garlic powder. This is a personal preference as well, but I really like the flavor of it in here, so I try to gently stir it. Try not to disturb those dumplings too much. Now I let this simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes over medium heat with the lid off until it thickens up and the dumplings are cooked. Once the dumplings are cooked through, I like to add in 3 to 4 chopped boiled eggs and then give this a gentle stir. And the last thing I like to add, other than my spoon, is some fresh cracked black pepper. Now, answer this for me. Fork or spoon? Comment down below and let me know how you like to eat your chicken and dumplings. And then I will see you again on the next video.